Welcome back to 242 Math. I am your host Raphael Thompson, and today we'll be looking at the full syllabus for the BGCSE Mathematics examination. That's right, all of the topics on that syllabus you will be exploring today. So you'll have to work questions at the beginning, and then I'll help you with the answers at the end. Okay, remember, get your pen, pencil, paper, graph paper, geometry set, and your calculator. Get them all ready. We're about to begin, guys. Let's go. Hope you're ready. And here we go. The first topic is arithmetic, and you will be dealing with integers, irrational numbers, prime numbers, square numbers, cube numbers. Do you know what these things are? You need to know what these terms refer to in order to work the questions, because you're going to work some right now. 1, x is 2, square root of 25, 6, square root of 2, 4, and 3. Write an irrational number from that. Write a prime number from it. Write an integer from it, and write a square number from it. Do it quickly. You just need one answer. There may be more than one answer. You just need to write one. 2, y square root of 2, negative 4, 3, negative 0.18, 4 fifths, 9, pi. Write the irrational numbers. And then B, write the prime number, only one. And C, write the integers. And D, write a square number. 3, express 105 as a product of its prime factors. So for number 3, you got to divide, guys. So begin to do it on your calculator if you need to. Divide it down till you get 1. And then write the 105 as a product of its prime factors after you've done the division. Do it quickly. Done. Here we go. And we move on to decimal place significant figures. Evaluate 0.851 divided by 0.7. Take away 0.0591. Do it on your calculator, guys. Let's go. Use your memory and memory recall to help you so you can work it faster. And then when you get your answer to this, write your answer correct to 3 significant figures. A, B, write it correct to 3 decimal places. Once you've done that, go on to number 2. Write 0.9599 correct to 1 decimal place and to 2 significant figures. So go ahead and work number 2. You just got to write it correct to 1 DP and correct to 2 SF. DP for decimal places, SF for significant figures. Got it? Yeah, you got these. And here we move on to some other topics in arithmetic. Percentage problems. You may be given something like that. A holiday loading question, fractions, and ratio. These are all a part of the arithmetic topic on the syllabus. So you must be able to handle any question from any of these, and they can give you one or more than one question. Here we go. 1. A vehicle traveled 3,300 meters in 2 seconds. In 2 minutes, 56 seconds. Calculate the average speed in kilometers per hour. Work it. Number 2, Mr. Bain has a fixed deposit of $25,000. His bank pays simple interest at 5 3/4% per annum. Calculate A, the interest gained after 1 year. B, the total amount on deposit after 1 year. And at the end of the year, Mr. Bain withdraws the money to buy a car totaling $30,000. The car lot offers a 15% discount for cash. If he pays cash, calculate the discount. C and D, the cash price. And then 3, Ray earns $43,824 a year. A holiday weekly loading of 17.5% of 4 weeks regular pay is applied to it. Calculate his total pay for 4 weeks leave. 3 questions. See if you can get them done. For number 2, remember you have to deal with simple interest, which is PRT over 100. Principal times rate times time over 100. And in this case, it won't be over 100 because you have to change 5 3/4%. So change it in improper and work it. And 2 more questions that deal with arithmetic. 4, write as a single fraction in simplest form 1 over x minus 2 plus 2 over x minus 3. So you work it like you work a fraction, a simple fraction. Only on the bottom you have x minus 2 and x minus 3. but treat it the same way. Number 5. In the business, Mr. Brown, Mr. Jones, and Mr. Science made investments of $2,000, $4,000, and $1,500 respectively. Express their investments as a ratio in simplest form. A profit of $300 was made in the first year. This profit was divided among them in the same proportion as their investments. Calculate B, Mr. Jones' profit, C, Mr. Brown's profit, and D, Mr. Sands' profit. So you have ratio and proportion questions and fractions that you would need to work, and the fractions don't come with numbers, they're algebraic fractions, so it makes it a lot harder. But once you can work the numbers, fraction with numbers, you can work the fractions with letters, algebra. Let's go on. Exponents, another topic. 1. If A is 3 times 10 to the power 3 and B is 2 times 10 to the negative 3, calculate AB. Number 1, remember what you do when you're multiplying exponents. 2. If P is equal to 2 times 10 to the negative 3 and Q is equal to 8 times 10 to the negative 2, calculate P divided by Q. Remember what you do when you're dividing exponents. So there are two, a rule for a multiplication, and there's a rule that you have to use for division when you're dealing with exponents. Go ahead, work those two for exponents. Be careful with the negative exponents. Use your calculator if you're unsure about negative numbers. Use your calculator and it will give you the answer, and it will show if it's positive or negative once you type the numbers in. You don't have to hurt your head. Go ahead, work them. Got it? Good. Let's move on to indices and radicals. Number 1, evaluate 1/9 in bracket to the negative half power. We need to know how to work that. And 2, if 2a is 32, find a. 2 to the power of a is 32, find a. And 3, water flows through a pipe at a rate of 40 cubic meters per second. How long will it take to fill the water tank at Prospect Ridge if this tank has a volume of 1.2 times 10 to the 5 cubic meters? Write your answer in scientific notation. Go ahead and work number 3. Remember, for number 1, you have negative. It's a negative power. Negative. It's a negative exponent. You have a negative power, so you have to know what to do to change that to a positive. In 2 is straightforward. What exponent would you have in order to get 32? Number 3, you have to be doing some division. So get going, guys. Remember your answer in scientific notation for number 3. They don't just want an answer. It must be in scientific notation. And we move on to matrices. 1, given that matrix A3, 4, negative 2, and the matrix 1B is equal to the matrix 5, 0, find A and B. Number 2, for the matrix F is equal to x squared 10 x 5. The determinant is negative 5. Calculate the value of x. And for 3, if E is equal to 4, the matrix 4, 2, 5, 2, find the inverse of E. E to the negative 1 means the inverse of E. And there is the formula for number 3, guys. You will be given the formula. So there's no need for you to chicken out on number 3. They gave you the formula. Look at it. Put your numbers in and then work it out. You should not get that wrong once they give you that formula and you do exactly what they say. Just use the numbers and it would work out. Got it? And there's another matrices problem. 4, Liz and Joy are 2 girls who attend the Preston Albury High School. The following table shows averages for coursework and examination grades attained during last term. Find the final grades if coursework scores contributed 40% and the examination scores contributed 60% to the final grade. Now, don't get concerned about all of this writing on the tables. You have to do your 2 matrices. So for the coursework and examination, use the numbers, write a matrix, and then for the weight for the coursework and examination, use the numbers and write a matrix. Use 0.4 and 0.6. Then you're gonna use your numbers and write a final matrix with the final answer for Liz and Joy, their percentages, using the matrices. Remember, it's row multiplied by column. Work it, and then you'd get an answer. 2 simple calculations and you're done. Got it? Yep. Algebra. 1. Simplify. So do number 1, 2, you have to factorize. 3, you have to factorize. And 4, you have to simplify. That's an algebraic fraction again. For number 3, remember the two numbers, the factors for 3, 1 and 3. Figure out your factors for 10. 10 could be 10 and 1 or 2 and 5. But remember, when you cross multiply, you want to add to give you -1 and multiply to give you -10. Add to give you -1, multiply to give you -10. That's for number 3. That's what we're talking about. Go ahead, work them, guys. See what you can do. A lot of algebra would be on the paper, so you have to know how to master all of these, how to simplify, factorize, and solve. You can't duck it, so learn how to do it, practice. Got them? Great. And number 5, another algebra one. A formula for acceleration is a is equal to b squared minus u squared all over 2s. Find the value of a when s is equal to 27, v is 8, and u is 22.5, giving your answer correct to 1 decimal place. B, rearrange the formula for acceleration to make u the subject. Go ahead, work and put your numbers in, use your calculator, and get a final answer for A. And remember, your answer must be correct to 1 dp, 1 decimal place. And for B, just make u the subject. At the end, you want u is equal to something. Work it and see what you get. Do it as quickly as you can, guys. Work it just on number 5. Long way to go. More topics coming up. And I already warned you there will be a lot of algebra, so be prepared. Got it? Okay, inequalities, algebra again in a way. 1, solve 3 bracket 2 minus x, and that's less than 5x plus 6. Solve it for x, and then B, represent the solution on a number line that you get from A, and then C, hence list the integers that are solutions to this inequality. So for C, you can't write all the numbers because the numbers would go on and on and on. So just put your 3 dots, it mean, and so on, they go on and on. 2, using a scale of 1 centimeter, 1 unit on each axis for -3 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 6, and -5 is less than or equal to y, which is less than or equal to 2. Graph the solution to 2x minus 3y is greater than 6. So you need your graph paper for that one, guys. Go ahead and work it, and remember, you want to graph. The final thing you do is you do shade in an area. That's a solution to that, where 2x minus 3y is greater than 6 on that graph. So you draw a line for number 2 and then decide on the area. Okay, again on the functions, now the functions h and k are defined as h of x is equal to 7 minus 2x, and k of x is x plus 6. A, state the value of h of 2. B, calculate the value of x for which k of x is equal to 4. C, find inverse of k, or k to the -1 means the inverse. And D, find and simplify an expression for hx. And E, calculate the values for which h of x is less than or equal to k of x. A lot for functions. Go ahead, start to work. Again, a lot of algebra involved. Go ahead, work them, see what you can do. Okay, we have to move on, guys. Geometry now. find the value of x, y, and z. And number 1, use the numbers that they're giving you. Use the 30 degree and the 90 degree in one, and then 42 degrees in the other. Use those numbers to help you guys find the value of x and y for number 2. And you have parallel lines cut by a transversal, so use the 82 and find x and y using that 82. You can do it. And then 3, from the diagram, calculate the size of angle A, angle B, and angle C. Again, you have 2 parallel lines, and you can work from that. You have 85 degrees and 115 degrees. Okay, go ahead, calculate those angles. You can work these out. Use the numbers, use the degrees, number of degrees that they give you. Remember, in the triangles, if it's a right angle, if you see the box that's a right angle, that's 90 degrees. And for parallel lines, you know that alternate angles equal, corresponding angles equal, and so on. Let's go. Okay, polygons. 1, calculate the size of each angle, and in this polygon you have x, y, and z that you have to find. Again, you're using the numbers they're giving you. Look at the numbers and calculate the angles x, y, and z for number 1. Number 2, find the value of x and y in that one, and they gave you some numbers. Calculate x and y. And number 3, a regular polygon has an interior angle of 150 degrees. Calculate how many sides this polygon has. And the thing that's important is that it's a regular polygon. Once it's a regular and they give you one interior angle, you can find how many sides the polygon has because it's a regular polygon. If you can work these, you're good. You're well on your way to solving anything they give you on polygons if you can handle these guys. Remember, you can only use what they give you. You can figure it out from what they have there. Okay, we move on to vectors. 1, PRT is a triangle where vector PT is equal to A and vector PR is equal to B. M is on vector TR, so that vector TM is equal to 2/3 vector TR, and D is on vector PT, so that P vector PD is equal to 3/4 vector PT. E is the midpoint of vector MD. Okay, and you have the diagram there, and it says find the following in terms of A and B, giving your answers in their simplest form. And you want to find vector DM first of all. Remember to use a triangle, and you go from, you make sure and see where the vector is heading, then go from tail to head. And then for number 2, you have to find vector PE. PE, so you have to draw that line in and use a triangle and see if you can solve it. All you got to do for vectors, remember, once you have a triangle, you go from the tail to the head. Okay, work it. Got it? Vectors again. Now you have a trapezium. In figure PSRQ, vector QR is equal to A, vector R is equal to B, and vector PQ is equal to A minus B. D is the midpoint of vector PQ. And A, express the following in terms of A and or B, simplifying your answers. 1 vector DQ, 2 vector PS, and 3 vector DS. Again, use your triangles and go from the tail to the head, back to the head, and you would be able to solve these. Putting in, remember your answer would have to be in terms of A and or B. So go ahead and work it. So for vectors, I've given you 2 of the type of questions they will throw at you. It could be a triangle, and then it could be a rectangle, or it could be a quadrilateral. So you'll have to be able to work with the triangle or work with the quadrilateral. Okay, here we go. Sets and Venn diagrams, and you're given a scenario of 40 people asked which newspaper they read, and 8 read the Tribune, only 6 the Guardian, only 5 the Herald, only 3 the Tribune and the Guardian, 4 the Tribune and the Herald, 6 the Guardian and the Herald, and 12 read none of these 3 papers. Let X be the number who read all 3 papers. Then A, complete the following Venn diagram. B, obtain an equation in X and solve it. Let's go, guys. Begin to put your numbers in. Now be careful with this, because if they say only, then that means you can put those numbers into the Venn diagram right away. Okay, once they say only, you can put those in. So remember, you're dealing with x, so you're going to get for b an equation in x, and you have to solve it. Remember, T is for Tribune, G is for Guardian, and the H is for the Herald. Let's go, guys, get it done. Got it? Okay. Mensuration, and the diagram shows a square ABCD of side 15 meters with an inscribed circle center O. Using pi 3.14, calculate the area of the shaded region. So you have to do two calculations. You should know what those two calculations are, and then you have to do subtraction, and then you'll be able to give me the answer. Remember, you're dealing with area, so write the answer properly to get full marks. Okay, that's a square. So you should be able to, I'll give you the formula. The formula for the area of a circle is pi r squared, and they gave you the value for pi, 3.14. So once you find the radius, you should be able to work out the area of the circle, which is pi r squared, guys. They're not going to hide formulas from you. You don't have to remember formulas. They will give you most of the formulas that you would need. Work it, get an answer. Got it? Okay, scale drawings. A regatta is over a triangular course starting and finishing at the same point x. The first leg of the course xy is 4 kilometers on a bearing of 0.70 degrees from x to a buoy at y. The third leg xz of the race is 5 kilometers with z due south of x. And that diagram shows that A, make a scale drawing using a scale of 1 centimeter to 1 kilometer, and then use the information from your diagram to find 1, the actual distance yz, and 2, the bearing of y from z. So go ahead, do your scale drawing. Remember, you need your protractor. Use your protractor and do that angle of 70 degrees, and then draw a line going across, and then draw a line going down. Using the scale, 1 centimeter is 1 kilometer. Once you've done that, then you can take your rule and measure the line from y to z and see what that is. And they want the actual distance. So once you measure it, write your answer in kilometers to give the actual distance. And then do the bearing of y from z. Okay, graphs. The pie chart shows what happens to $120 a page weekly income. Use it to answer the following questions. A, how much money is saved? Go to savings and calculate it. B, the angle representing how much money is spent on lunch. So they left out, that's the one they left out. Calculate how much, I use calculator, and calculate how much the sector angle is for lunch, and then C, the amount of money paid spent on lunch. Once you get the sector angle, use that angle and figure out the amount of money. Remember, the total amount of money was $120, and use the sector angle and the number of degrees in a circle and the amount of money in order to work out the answers that you need for each sector. Not a very difficult question. You should be able to handle that. Let's move on to measures of central tendency. For the project in our commerce class, Wendy tabulated the changes in the commodity and the stock market as follows: 4, 0, -1, 2, 4, -3, 1, and 3. For this data, calculate the mean, the median, and the mode, ABC. And she has yet to receive the 9th change in this commodity on the stock market, D. Calculate what that number should be in order for her to have an overall mean of 2 for this commodity. Let's go. I hope you know what the definitions are for these terms: mean, median, mode. If not, you have to learn them, guys. And then for D, they gave you the mean, and you have to figure out one of the numbers, the 9th number. Let's see if you know how to do that, guys. Waiting on you. Got it? Okay, measure central tendency. Number 2, move on to something that's a bit harder. The graph shows the cumulative frequency curve for the marks of 40 candidates from the island of Eleuthera on a national examination. From the graph, calculate A, the median mark, B, the lower quartile and the upper quartile, and C, the interquartile range. Do you know what to do, guys? Or are you stumped with this question? Nah, you can figure it out. Go ahead, get it done. Median, lower quartile, upper quartile, know what those terms mean, and then the interquartile range. You can figure these out, guys. It's quite simple once you know what to do. The terms themselves give you a big clue: median and quartile. Okay, let's move on. Line graphs. For the equation y is equal to x squared plus 2x plus 1, complete the table of values below. 2 numbers left out. Fill those numbers in on that table for x and y. And B, draw the graph. Now you need to graph paper. Draw the graph y is equal to x squared plus 2x plus 1 for values of x from -4 to 2, using a scale of 1 centimeter to represent 1 unit on both axes. And then C, draw in the line of symmetry on this curve. D, draw the graph of y is equal to x plus 3 on the same axis. There's a lot to do. And then E, write down the coordinates of the points where the line y is equal to x plus 3 intersects the curve y is equal to x squared plus 2x plus 1. Get going, guys. And remember, for questions like this on the paper, this would carry a whole heap of marks, a whole number of marks for this. So you must be able to master questions like these in order to do well on the examination. I told you about algebra. Algebra, you must be able to deal with anything algebraic, anything that they give you for algebra. And for line graphs, the number of marks involved, you must be able to master these as well in order to do well. Okay, let's move on to trigonometry. A newly planted display sign AB is held in place on horizontal ground by 2 ropes, BP and BT. The ropes are fastened at B, which is 1.8 meters from the base A. The rope BT is anchored at T, which is 1.2 meters from A. The rope BP is anchored at P at the angle of elevation 40 degrees. Calculate. And they have that angle in on the diagram. A, the length of rope BP corrected 2 decimal places. B, the length of rope BT first, and then BP corrected 3 significant figures. And then C, the angle of elevation rope BT makes with the horizon correct to the nearest degree. Go ahead, guys. A lot to do. And you would need your trusted calculator, because you would be dealing with some trig formulas. And the length of rope BT, that one you don't need any trig formula. The length of rope BP, you may need trig formula for that one. Okay, let's get to bearing. A boat sails from Cape Eleuthera Sea on a bearing of 090 degrees for 50 kilometers. It then changes course to bearing of 180 degrees for 30 kilometers to point P. Calculate. A, the distance of C from P, correct to 1 decimal place, and DP. And B, the bearing of C from P. Remember, bearing must always be taken from north, and the wording of it, the bearing of C from P, is important. So you have to go to P to calculate the bearing of C from P. Do it, guys. Do it quickly. See what you can get. Remember, they want A correct to 1 DP, 1 decimal place. So do it so you don't lose any marks. Waiting. Okay, you should be completed with bearings. Let's move on to probability. And you have a tree diagram. 3 balls are drawn at random without replacement from a bag containing 4 white and 3 black balls. Draw a tree diagram and use it to find the probabilities that A, more than 1 black ball is drawn, and B, 2 white balls and 2 black balls are left in the bag. Okay, so go ahead, do your working, and see if you can answer those two questions from the tree diagram. Remember, they don't want all of the answers. For A, they only want the answers that show that more than one black ball is drawn, and for B, 2 white balls and 2 black balls are left in the bag. Okay, so go ahead and pick the limbs that you would use from this tree diagram to solve A and B. You don't need to do all of it. Okay, work it. Got it? Okay, let's move on. Differentiation. Given that y is equal to x squared plus 2x minus 2, calculate dy a dy of dx, the gradient, and then b, the gradient of the curve at the point 1, negative 3, and c, the equation of the tangent at this point, and d, the value of x at which the tangent to the curve is parallel to the x-axis. Typical differentiation question. You have to know how to tackle these as well, guys. So go ahead, get it done. Let's see what you can do with a question like this. Waiting. Got it? Still working? Okay, you should be complete by now. Circle. In the diagram, O is the center of a circle ABC. Angle AOB is equal to 100 degrees and angle CBT is 108 degrees. Calculate the size of the angle labeled X and Y and then Z. X, Y, and Z. Find X, Y, and Z from the diagram they have there. Okay, use the numbers they have on the diagram. We have 100 in one of those triangles, and then you have 108 on the outside by that line. So use those numbers to help you find what they're asking you for, guys. Let's go. So use the 100 first and use a triangle and work from there. Once you get those numbers in, then you can go ahead and find Y. And then after you find Y, then you can find Z. In that order. Got it? Okay, let's move on to another one for the circle in the diagram below. O is the center of the circle, W, X, Y, Z. Angle WXC is 45 degrees and angle XVY is 33 degrees. Calculate the value of the angle labeled A and then B and then C. Again, don't worry, don't be afraid when you see something like this. There's a whole lot of drawings and two numbers, but use those numbers to help you guys. Use those numbers and you can get it done. And then you have to use the fact that you have a diameter in there. W is the diameter. Use that to help you. That would be of great help. Let's go. Got it? Done? And here we go for transformation, guys. You have the diagrams there and you have to give a full description of the transformation that maps A onto B, triangle A onto triangle B onto triangle C, triangle A onto triangle D, and triangle D onto triangle E. Remember, when they say a full description, there is a way that you have to word it. If it's a reflection, or if it's a rotation, or a translation, or an enlargement or dilation, there's a certain way to write it. So you have to know how to do that, guys, in order to work transformations. Okay, the other part of this would be you would have to draw these in. That's the other thing to do, but now they've given you the diagrams and you have to describe each transformation. So get it done quickly before we move on to the best part, finding the answers. Let's see how many of those you got correct. If you don't get all correct, don't worry, guys. Look at the past papers, and then there'll be more questions coming up to prepare you. Remember, you don't memorize these questions, you know how to work them. That's important. And we get to the answers. We go through these quickly. And here we go. Number one, did you get these correct? Remember, for one, A, B, C, or D, only one of the answers you have to get, and you get the marks. And for number two, you have to have all of the answers. So where you have 3 for B, square root of 2 pi, then 3, negative 4, 399. And for 105, 3 times 5 times 7, you have to get all of those for number two. And then for number three, it have to be like that in order to get full marks. Okay, that's it. Got it? Let's move on. And number two, you have to find correct three significant figures, 1.33, 3 decimal place, 1.328, and then 1 decimal place, 1.0 for number two, and then 0.96 for two significant figures for number two. Got it? If not, check. The hardest one there was number two, 1 dp, where you have 9, and because there's a 5 at the back, you had a 1 to the 9 to make it 10. So it became 1.0. Okay, you have to know how to work it like that as well. And we move on. Number one, the vehicle. The answers are given there. For the vehicle, 67.5 kilometers per hour. Number two, Mr. Bain. The answers in red. And number three, the holiday weekly loading, $3,961.02. Look at the red answers. See if you got those correct. Mark it. If not, look at the working that I've shown you and work it next time. Got it? Okay. Then we moved on to fractions, 3x minus 7 over x minus 2 times x minus 3, or you can actually work that out and put the answer on the bottom. Same thing. And then Mr. Brown, Mr. Jones, and Mr. Sands, the answer is 483 for the ratio. Then 160, 80, and 60 for the profit. That's how I shared. So look at the answers in red, mark them, got them correct, excellent job. Okay, and let's move on to the next one. Exponents, you have to multiply. AB means you multiply and you end up with 6. 6 times 10 to the 0 is 6 times 1 is 6. And then 2, 0.025 is the final answer. When you did the division, remember when you were multiplying, you would add into the powers. When you're dividing, you would subtract. So look at the working. It shows you exactly what I did. So you just follow. Got it? Okay, good. Let's move on to indices and radicals. Number one, when you work it, you have to get rid of the negative power and put it 1 over it. It became 3. Then 5 for number 2 and 3. 3 times 10 to the 3 seconds. That would be the answer for number 3. They wanted it in scientific notation, and they wanted the time. That's the time in seconds that it would take to fill the tank. So the answer must be written like that. Okay, the matrices, the first one, the answer was B is 2 and A is negative 1. Once you work it, number 2, X is 1, when you dealt with the determinant being negative 5, and for number 3, when you finally work the inverse, you get negative 1, 1, 2.5, negative 2. And I gave you the formula for number 3, the inverse of a matrix. They would give you the formula. Okay, matrices again for Liz and Joy. Liz score would be 94.4 or 94%. Joy would get 92.2 or 92%. Once you have these answers here, or 94 and 92, you're straight. That would be correct. So just put your do the matrices and multiply, and then you'd get it. As simple as that. Okay, let's move on. Algebra. Okay, number 1 is 16x, y, z to the 2, and then number 2 you have to factorize. Those are your factors. For number 3, your factors will be 3a plus 5, a minus 2. And for number 4, negative 6, a plus 2, and on the bottom a squared minus 9. Or you could have a plus 3, a minus 3 on the bottom. Same thing. Okay? So the top would have to be that, but the bottom could be a squared minus 9 or a plus 3 times a minus 3. You still get that correct. And the next one, the formula for acceleration. A worked out to be negative 8.2 when you put your numbers in, use a calculator. And then B, when you rearrange it to get U is equal to the square root v squared minus 2as. the square root of all of that. That would have to be the answer for you when you rearrange it. Or you could write it in a different way if you want to, where you write u is equal to v minus square root of 2as. Okay, let's go on to inequalities, and you have to solve. So it's, for the first part, x is greater than negative 2.5, and to show that on the number line, you go and put a line there going that way, and you have to leave it open, and then your values will be negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, and so on. And then you have to do the graphing. Remember, once you are saying x is greater than, the circle would be open. You don't shade it, you don't close it. The graph you would begin by find two points on the line, and then join them and draw that line first thing in order to do the graph. So I'm doing it in parts for you to see exactly how I did it. So we're using y is equal to 2x minus 6 divided by 3 to get the line, and then that's the line, and you can put the equation on it, but now you don't. What you need is draw the solution to it. So that's it. You have to find the area that you need for it, and the area would be the area on that line to the bottom of that line. That would work out to be the area that you needed for that question. So once you put a value in, and then you decide if the value is true or false, and then you shade accordingly. So we tried the value 3, 2, and it proved to be false, so we had to shade to the bottom, not where that value is. Okay, let's move on to functions. A, the answer was 3, and B, the answer is negative 2. C, x minus 6. When you get y minus 6, x is y minus 6, you change it and put x for y. And then D was 4x minus 7. E, x is greater than or equal to 1/3. Got those, guys? Okay, more geometry. The x would be 60, y is 42, and z is 78 for number 1. Number 2, x worked out to be 41, and then y is 98. And for number 3, a worked out to be 95, b is 30, and c is 65. And I'm showing you the workings, guys, to help you to see how I got those answers. So just look at my workings in order to assist you in getting the answers. Polygons, and first one was x is 100, y is 100, z is 80. Number 2, x is 58, y is 122. And for number 3, the exterior angle, and you have to find number of sides, was 12 sides. Look at the working, and it'll show you exactly what I did for the polygons as well. Okay, no tricks involved. You just work from what they give you, and then you should be able to work the angles out. Okay, let's move on to vectors. And for number 1, I'm going to work it one at a time. Number 1, the answer in red is what you would get for that. Okay, you have to find a vector dm. So it was a lot of working, but then you worked it down to one final answer. And then number 2, I separated it for you. Number 2, you have to find vector PE, so you have to draw that line in and then use one of the triangle to work it. And that's what you did, and that's your final answer for that. Remember, for the final answers, a lot of time there would be more than one way to write it in order to show your final answer for these. But the process is the same. Okay, let's move on to the other vector, and in this one, the answer was for vector dq, you get a half in bracket a minus b, and that would be the answer for number 2. 1, I'm working it one at a time. So the next one you had to do was vector ps, and finally 3 was vector ds. Okay, so vector dq is a half a minus b. You didn't have to draw anything, you just look at what they give you. For number 2, the answer worked out to be 2a, and you have to find vector PS. So that would be the bottom line. You didn't have to draw, and then you can draw the line across to give you triangle QPS, and then you use that to help you work it out to get to 2a as the final answer for that. And then we did number 3. Final answer for that was a half in bracket 3a plus b. And again, you had to put a line, and they wanted the vector ds. So you had to draw that line in and then use a triangle, one of the triangles, to work it. Okay, and the final answer would be a half in bracket 3a plus b. Okay, sets and Venn diagrams. If you have to put in the where they say only, you can put those things in, and that's what I did first. X in the middle, and then 8, 6, and 5, and 12. They gave you those numbers, so you can put those in first to begin the process of filling out the Venn diagram. Because they said only, you can do that. Okay, you got that? That's the first part. Next, you'd have to fill in the rest of the areas. So once you put X there, then you got to put 3 minus X, 4 minus X, 6 minus X for those areas there, for the intersection of those circles. They gave you that information as well, and you have to use X in order to write those in there. Once you get that, then you have to obtain an equation and then try to solve it. And that's it right there. You add all of them up, and you would get negative 2x equal to negative 4, and your final answer x is equal to 2. That would be the final answer. You write an equation, and then you solve it. Okay, so once you get it correct, then you can put that number back in, and then it'll help you to see if the answer is correct. You can work it out from there. Okay, mensuration, you have to figure out the area, the shaded area on the diagram. That's what you have to do for mensuration. And the final answer would be 48.375 square meters. Remember, you have to use square units in order to write your answer. Okay, but once you do that, you find the area of the square, and then find the area of the circle. You subtract the area of the circle from the area of the square, and then you get 48.375 square meters. Okay, scale drawings, remember, use your protractor. And the first thing you do is draw the vertical line and use it to make a 70-degree angle. And then use your ruler, draw a line 4 centimeters to y, use ruler, draw a line 5 centimeters. And then do the final, your YZ is 7.5 kilometers. The bearing would be 0.30 degrees. Okay, but remember, for this you can use your protractor to help you with the angles, and then your ruler to help you with the lines. Graphs. For this one, the savings worked out to be $50. The lunch angle is 45 degrees, and use that. And the lunch money would be $15. Okay, so that would be the answers for those for the graph using what they gave you. Okay, remember, it's 360 degrees in a circle, so it's in a pie chart, the same thing. Use 360. You have to use the 360 to find the missing sector first, and then work it from there. Okay, measure central tendency. The mean is 0.8, the median is 1.5, because between 1 and 2 is 1.5 halfway. The mode is 4. The next one, the missing number would have to be 8 if the overall mean was 2 for the 9th commodity. Okay, and I look at the workings that I have on it to help to show you how I came up with the answers. Okay, mean, median, mode, you should know the definitions in order to work those. And we move on to the next one, the cumulative frequency curve. You have to find the median mark. The median would be the halfway mark. Median means half. The lower quartile, so that's 1/4 of it. And the upper quartile would be 3/4, the 3/4 mark. The interquartile would be the upper quartile, take away the lower quartile. So that would be the working you would need in order to work this. I'm giving you it before we do it. And here we have it. The median halfway mark was about 62. Once you get it 1 off from it, you're okay. And the lower quartile, 52, the upper quartile worked out to be 69. So you draw your lines across, then draw them down to figure those out. Then the interquartile range, you just subtract 69, take a 50, you get 17. Again, once if you are just like one off, you're okay, because you're dealing with a curve, and so it's okay to get one off. You still get full marks. The line graph, numbers that were missing were 1 and 1 for this parabola. That was straightforward. Just stick your values into x squared plus 2x plus 1. The x values were -2 and then 0 to get those values. That's the easy part. Now you have to draw the graph using the table. So again, you're going to use a pencil on the graph paper, and that curve you draw it freehand. Don't use a ruler to draw it. Draw it freehand and draw it as best as you can using freehand. And your final answer was, for the point of intersection, -2, 1, and 1, 4. The red line on it, the parabola, shows where you the line of symmetry would be along that line there. So that would be x is -1, x -1. Okay, trigonometry, we move on, and then again you have to find the length of rope BT, the length of rope BP, and the angle of elevation of rope BT that it makes with the horizon. Okay, those were the questions. We would get the answers coming up in a minute. So the first thing you have to do for BT is an hypotenuse, because it's in a right angle triangle, and they gave you two sides, so you can use x squared is equal to 1.2 squared plus 1.8 squared, so you get 2.16 when you work it down. Use your calculator, find the square root of that to get 2.16. That's the first part. That's A. That was easy, because you're dealing with a right angle triangle. And BP, sine of 42 degrees is 1.8 over y. So y sine 42 is 1.8. So y is equal to, BP is 2.69. Okay, and use your calculator, sine of 42 degrees, to find sine of 42 degrees, 0.6691. Calculator, your calculator shows you that. So you divide 1.8 by that to get 2.69. That's where we got that from. And then we went on to C, angle of elevation. So the angle whose tangent is, it worked out to be tan to the -1 of A. The angle whose tangent is equal to 1.5. The angle whose tangent is 1.5 is 56.31 or 56 degrees, because they wanted it to the nearest degree. Okay, so that's how you have to work that one, using tangent. And again, you can use shift tan to find what you needed for that one on the calculator. Bearings, A, the CP, the cost price, CP, the line CP worked out to be 58.3 kilometers, and you would have to use Pythagoras there again, use a calculator to work out square root of 3400, and then the bearing worked out to be 301 degrees. Remember, you wanted the bearing of C from P. Probability, the tree diagram, you have the questions here, and remember, for the first pick, it would be, you get a fraction over 7, the second pick over 6, the third pick you get a fraction over 5. Once you know that first, then you can go from there. Remember, you're going to pick without replacement. That's important. So that's why I went ahead and gave you the numbers first for the fractions for each pick. Okay, then you put your numbers in, and the tree diagram would look like that. The parts that we need, 1, 2, 3, 4 of those parts, and when you add them together, you would get 13 over 35 would be the answer for A that you need from that tree diagram. Okay, but you see how I worked them at the back of the tree diagram in order to get the fractions. So that's what you're doing. You multiply the fractions for each pick. Okay, the second one, 2 white and 2 black. The answer, I needed 1, 2, 3 of those limbs to get the answer. And then you add them together and you get 18 over 35. Because you get 6 over 35 plus 6 over 35 plus 6 over 35. So it's 18 over 35. Final answer for that one. But you have to know the limbs that you would need on the tree diagram in order to work questions like these. That's very important. Okay, differentiation. Dy over dx is 2x plus 2. The gradient is 4. The equation worked out to be y is equal to 4x minus 7, and then the value of x was x equal to negative 1 for 1d. Okay, that's the value of x with the tangent of the curve is parallel to the x-axis. So you put it equal to 0, and then you get a value for x, which worked out to be negative 1. Okay, the circle, A worked out to be 40 degrees, and x worked out to be 40 degrees, y worked out to be 32 degrees, and z was 116 degrees. So you have to use the 100 degrees first, and in the triangle, once that's the number at the top, take that away from 180, left with 80, so x would be, then you can find x would be 40, and then the other angle at the bottom would be 40, and that helps you with the rest of it. The circle, number 2, A worked out to be 12 degrees, B 45 degrees, and C 78 degrees. And I have the workings there for you. The numbers in green are the angles that I had to put in order to work to get the final answer. So look at those numbers and see where I got them from, and you would see how to work a question like this to get your final answers. Okay, let's move on. Transformations. The first one was a rotation of 90 degrees counterclockwise about the origin, and B was an enlargement with a scale factor of 2 and the center of enlargement at the point negative 2, 0. C was a reflection in the line y is equal to negative 1, and D was a translation using the vector negative 8, 2. And I did the drawings for you to show you what you were actually doing for the reflection and the rest. Okay, got it? Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember, you have more tests coming up, so don't worry if you didn't get all of those correct. You'll have another chance to redeem yourself. Okay, I am here to try to help you to do the best that you can on the BGCSE Mathematics exam. Thank you for watching. God bless you. See you in the next one. That's a wrap.